Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you guys can see, we're in a shop today. We're actually being headed outside to work on the truck here in a minute. And what we'll be working on today is basically a new steering wheel. So let's show you what we got. I ordered this steering wheel from eBay actually, and it took a couple weeks to get over here on the slow boat from China. I also ordered at the same time a new basically carbon fiber overlaid trim piece for the 22 and newer steering wheels. This might be a similar piece for the older style, I'm not sure. There were a couple sticker options for having a carbon fiber overlay, or actually paying for a carbon fiber overlay that's on the GM part. If you look on here, there is a GM part number on here. It says made in China. 848055561, I think is what that says. This is basically a stock Chevrolet part that they bought locally in China, and then they overlaid some carbon fiber on it. And I actually have a similar process done on a C6 steering wheel. And I really liked how that turned out. I was like, well, maybe that's an option for the Silverado. And after doing a lot of research, I did find that this was an option, that you could get this carbon fiber trim with a leather wrapped steering wheel. Now, if you guys go on Amazon or eBay, you'll see a bunch of the cheap carbon fiber steering wheels that are basically, you're gonna be holding plastic. Didn't want to be holding plastic at all. I didn't want to be holding a composite. I wanted a leather wrapped wheel. So we actually ended up paying a little bit more because this is all leather wrapped. There's none of that composite plastic on it. And even though they say it's a carbon fiber steering wheel, it's not really. It's just a layer of fiberglass with a carbon fiber outer shell with some resin on it. So that's basically what that stuff is. But we were able to find a leather wrapped steering wheel with all black stitching on it, and then you guys can see the upper mark, kind of the center mark, that is black as well. So this steering wheel is an almost exact replica of what I have over in the Corvette. And I bought that from a company called, I think it was Revisol, something like that. And yeah, if you guys can see, we have basically the same steering wheel in the Corvette. But yeah, it's basically the same thing. The OEM airbag, carbon fiber wrap trim, the kind of, you know, sport grips at the top, the flat bottom, and the center mark is in black as well. Now, you can find other ones out there, like I said, that are wrapped in carbon fiber, or you can find them in a leather color, but they have that center mark in red. Well, that would go with the brakes and the ZR2 logo that's on the truck. But all of the stitching on the inside is either black or yellow. And I was afraid having red and red stitching, that was the other thing. The stitching on those other wheels has a red center mark here and the stitching's red. I was afraid I'd get a little bit of that McDonald's effect. So red and yellow, I was like, man, that's just, it's two clashing colors and there's no other red thread in the entire truck. So I was like, just find the black one and we'll go from there. So this is what we were able to find. It took a couple weeks, but everything finally got here. Now for cost, I think the steering wheel was like 300 bucks, the steering wheel itself, and this trim was about another 150. So we've got like 450 bucks into this. The cheapest carbon fiber steering wheels I was seeing was between $500–600, and those carbon fiber wheels did not include this trim. It was just the outer piece. And like I said in the past, I hate grabbing something that's not leather. If you guys can see here, this plug, this is a heated steering wheel, and we were able to retain that heated steering wheel. Now there is another guy on YouTube, actually the Facebook groups as well. He swapped in a similar steering wheel, and I think what he said was the heated steering wheel elements still work, but it's only on the pieces of the wheel that are not that composite plastic or the carbon fiber. So I think it was just the sides, maybe part of the bottom. So we're gonna go ahead and start working on the truck. I'm gonna get the old wheel removed, and the real secret there is basically there's some trim panels here on the side of the wheel. You gotta pop those off. There's a 10mm bolt on each side. Pop those off, take the airbag out, and then disconnect the airbag. And then the bolt that's holding the wheel to the steering column is a T50 Torx. All right, guys, we have gotten the bolt out, the T50, like we said. That's down here. Then there's the two 10mm that are back behind here. You guys will see it right here. I'm pointing at it with my finger. There's a 10mm there. There's a 10mm over there. And the easiest way to pick those off is this is the little trim that goes over it. Make sure you use a plastic trim removal tool, one of these blue tools down there. That way when you guys are lifting up that panel, you're not trying to damage it with a sharp screwdriver or a pick or anything like that. Then once you get that off, you can take off the airbag, and on the back side of the airbag there are these two clips. There's a pink and a purple. And then the trick with these is, you guys will see my thumbnail, I'm gonna push down on it. So push down it like that. So that releases the clip. You gotta push down on both sides, and that will allow you to release the clip on both sides of those connectors. So disconnect those two connectors. There's a third connector here that's on the other side of the airbag. Disconnect that. And then the last connector is this yellow one right here. And basically lift up the red clip, pull this out, and remove that bolt. Like I said, it's a T50. And now you guys will see us be able to pull this off. And there you go. We no longer have a steering wheel attached to the column. Now we should be able to do the rest of this swap inside the shop with some fans on us, because it is like 85 degrees outside. So basically what we got to do is take off the trim, the buttons, everything from this steering wheel, and we need to transfer it over to the new wheel that's on top of the supercharger. So we'll basically take off all these Torx bits on the back. Looks like it's a T20, T15 maybe a little bit bigger, T20, T25. Take those off, and that'll allow us to take the buttons off. That should allow us to take this back cover off. And then what that will allow us to do is go ahead and basically strip this down and get the last of the parts off. Now I would recommend you lay a towel down or something so that you're not going to scrape up the front of your steering wheel. And this plastic, you know, it is kind of easy to mar up. So make sure you get some kind of cover on that. And then especially for our new carbon fiber trim, we're going to make sure that it's not sitting on anything sharp and going to mangle that up. So, all right guys, we just about have the trim panel, all the wiring, everything disconnected from the steering wheel. I'm kind of going to lift up on it. I think it's fully separated now. Really, the big trick to this is make sure you have access to all the bolts. So you're going to take all the bolts off on the back. I think there's 4 or 6 of them to get the rear panel trim off. You're going to pull that off. Then you're going to pull the buttons off. There's 2 bolts on each button, the ones on the back. And then once you get all of the buttons and everything, all those screws out, you can pull the back trim panel off, kind of like I said. Then here up front, basically there's no more hardware. You kind of just need to pull everything apart. And the last thing that's holding everything together is, you guys can see these little spikes for the wire harness. And I simply pulled that off with one of these punches, and I literally just pushed the tip of the plastic piece using that punch, and we were able to push the wire harness back through the steering wheel, and that got everything disconnected. Now you guys can see we have this steering wheel heater, so that's why the electrical wiring is there. That will stay with this steering wheel. Our new steering wheel does have a plug on it. It's somewhere in here. Actually, you guys can see it right there. That will plug into the old harness. You guys can see this says green on it. When you disconnect the back from the steering wheel, these aren't really marked. They're the same connector, so you kind of could easily screw that up. That green wire is on the steering wheel heater plug. You guys can see that here. And so that is why I marked that green, just so that you know where to put that green wire and everything gets plugged in correctly. All right guys, I have messed around with this for over an hour, and we are not gonna be able to install the carbon fiber trim piece for a number of reasons. First thing, none of the holes are threading any of the bolts. I have tried each switch, and all it did was try to thread in, and then it tried to strip out, so I stopped. I don't know, in their overlay process, did they put some kind of, you know, like super duper glue or something in all the holes? But yeah, none of the threads are starting. Actually, that's not true. I got one to start, but that's like one of like 12 screws on here. And the second part, you'll see I just ended up snapping off this bolt. I was not pressing that hard. I was just trying to tighten it down, And yeah, so that just snapped. And well, I'm basically going to demand a refund because this thing, it looks great, but none of the holes will screw in. And I've actually gone back to the old trim piece using the hardware that came off there, and it screwed right back in. So I don't know what happened. The only thing I can think of is when they were putting this overlay on here is that some kind of coating, some kind of plastic or epoxy got into all of these holes, and it basically won't allow any new threads to go ahead and screw in here. So while that sucks, I can go ahead, put the stock piece in here, and we can at least get the truck drivable again with having the upgraded steering wheel, but we won't have our carbon fiber trim. All right, guys, we've pretty much finished up the truck steering wheel. I did have to take it apart a couple times, mostly the back because I had a really bad gap down here. There is still a slight gap, but it's about as best as I'm gonna be able to get it without over tightening this thing and breaking it. So the reason there is a little bit of a gap at the bottom of the steering wheel right there is because with this flat bottom, the foam and the amount of leather on it is different. And I kind of tracked down, I took it back apart a little bit so you can see my sweaty handprints on there. And the amount of foam and leather that they have on this is actually fatter and more than what's on the stock wheel. So that's why the OEM parts aren't fitting super great. I mean, they fit pretty decent. Could it be better? Yeah, probably. But hey, for the like $300 to $400 that I spent on this, I'm fairly happy with it. That carbon fiber piece, yeah, that's going back. I'm demanding a refund on that. All right, guys, we got the steering wheel and the clock spring plugged back in. So that is the yellow plug at the top. Now we can go ahead and grab the airbag. I've already tightened this back down with my impact. I would say 2 or 3 solid oogas, but no, honestly, I just spun it in until it stopped, and then I went up a step, torqued it again. We're good to go. So this ain't gonna go nowhere. Now we're ready for the airbag. You guys can see we have the 3 plugs right here, line up pink to pink, purple to purple, and black to black, line all those up. Then on the side, like I said, you got these 10mm, and those were just hand tight. I don't think there's any torque spec on there. All right, guys, we finished with the side 10mm on both sides, and I also got the covers back on. All right, guys, so that's pretty much a wrap on the steering wheel swap. It is way more sporty than the factory steering wheel, and we've got kind of some comfort sport grips here. We've got a flat bottom steering wheel, so it's going to help you get in and out of the truck easier by, you know, less hitting your legs on the bottom here. Now, I'll be honest, guys, it's not that much of a difference, but any difference is better than stock. And then at the top of the wheel, we got the competition mark, centering mark, whatever you want to call that. I think the Raptors might come with the stock Raptor or the Raptor R, so kind of adding a little sportiness to the top of it. So yeah, that kind of wraps up the sportiness upgrades for the interior of the truck. There's not really much else I would do. You know, we got the headrest modifications with from 42 Auto or 42 Stitch, whatever that company was called. We got the more sporty steering wheel, and then we got the gauge pod from Aeroforce. All right, guys, that is going to be a wrap on the steering wheel project for the truck. Overall, not very difficult. The hardest part was probably dealing with this stupid carbon fiber piece. And kind of like I said, all of the bolt holes pretty much stripped out, or they wouldn't even start. So I apply a little bit of pressure, not a ton, just a little bit, so that the bolt would start. And it's like they wrapped a bad piece from the factory, because the factory piece that we just put on the steering wheel, everything threaded right back in, had no issue, and even parts that were really tight, it threaded all the way in without issue, didn't strip, no issues. So I don't know if they're using a crappy copy of a GM part or it's an actual GM part. I just don't know. And so yeah, that is going to be about it. As you guys can see, we are still working on the LT4. I had not taped it up since the last time you guys saw it, so it's all taped up. I need to order a pin kit for that so that we can drill the crank. The Corvette, pretty much sitting there waiting for the 427. I think from the last Corvette update, haven't really done much with it. Done a little bit of stuff here and there, but nothing major. And so yeah, since we're kind of playing the waiting game on parts and tools and whatnot, this steering wheel project kind of fit in perfectly with our schedule. So if you guys want to see more updates on the LT4 or the 427 for the Corvette, hit that subscribe button, turn on your bell notifications. If you guys want to help support the channel, check out all the links down below. I will try to get you a link to the steering wheel. I am not going to send you a link for the carbon fiber piece because, like I said, that thing's pretty much worthless. And that's to be about it. Oh, also make sure you check out our website, BonecrrusherSS.com. We got t-shirts, hats, parts, used parts, new parts, all kinds of stuff on there. And as I've always said in the past videos, plenty of C6 parts still for sale. And that's all going to be on the website. So that's going to be it. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.